Orlando.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone.
Welcome to the OZone. Welcome to the OZone.
The voice of massive magic fans.
Welcome back to another episode of the OZone podcast. We got Justin, Al, myself, Anthony, and today is January 14th, so we are recording this Thursday afternoon. And damn it, boys, we are injured. We are so injured. We are dumb injured. Why are we so hurt right now? Like, we are medically incapable of walking without getting hurt.
What's up with it? What happened with this team the last 2 years, man? Like, we just cannot stay healthy.
Bro, it's bad. Like, the luck. And here's my issue. And obviously, we're going to talk more about it in just a moment. But our injuries is causing, it's like the minute someone gets hurt, bam, free passes are being handed out everywhere. You get a free pass for coaching. You get a free pass for front office and sleeping on the job. Like, a lot of free passes are being thrown around with every injury that occurs. Man, I feel like we said that it's been about a week and a half since we did an episode. Man, I'm ready to go through it. But before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about NBA in general. So obviously right now the NBA is struggling with COVID. This is not the bubble. All right. We're not in a safe, confined environment. The NBA is trying to do the best that they can in terms of how they're doing the scheduling, where we're playing certain teams back to back. They're enforcing new rules. But we're struggling. We just now we had our first Orlando Magic game postponed against the Boston Celtics because they weren't able to get 8 people on the floor. What are you guys' thoughts on the struggle that we're going through with COVID in the NBA?
I mean, I think it should have been expected. I mean, it happened to Major League Baseball. It happened to, the NFL. I think as long as you're playing a team sport, you can expect COVID to kind of, attack the players on those teams. The UFC, has kind of had a better, I would say, outlook with COVID just because it is one-on-one in the cage, you know what I mean? So it's not so much of a team dynamic, and as soon as one person gets sick, they get removed. But that's a little bit different when you're continually around, 15 plus guys, and it's easier to spread COVID around. So I think that's one thing that the NBA is going to get better at over time, and I think we see the adjustments that they're taking now. Players outside of being home, they can't do anything else, you know what I mean? Unless you're going out to see a doctor or get groceries, which I would assume most players have people getting groceries for them. But any of those things, you really can't go outside. And I think it's just because the league has to, get it under control. But how long are players going to be willing to live under those restrictions?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw George Hill from OKC today add some comments about this and basically say, I'm a man and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Like this, you guys can control me in a way. I think that's where things are going to get kind of interesting for the NBA where, we have these restrictions. They're trying to do things the right way. But there are going to be some players that just don't respect the rules and refuse to abide by the rules that the league is setting. And I think Coach Clifford today gave a really good quote talking about, it's not only the teammates, it's not only your team itself, but it's also the older people, the older family members, the older parents that you have at home that you're going to go say hi to after a game, the impact that it can have in them as well. So it is a crazy issue going on in the NBA right now. Like you said, Justin, it was expected, but I think it's happening a lot faster than we expected. It's only been, 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks since the NBA started, and we're seeing a large number of games getting postponed. The Magic were affected for the first time. I know there's games already Saturday being canceled, and it's only Thursday. So, I mean, hopefully the league can continue. I don't want to see the NBA stop. We're all basketball fans here, and we want to see this continue. But the players have to do their part. The NBA have to do their part. And hopefully these vaccines do their job, and we can go back to normal life soon. But it will be a tough season for sure for the entire NBA.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA is different. It's not a normal job, right? These people are getting paid millions of dollars to be able to play basketball. You're right. George Hill is 100% right. The NBA can't control what he does. He's a man. He's a grown man. He can do whatever he wants. But they can control his paycheck. So not every NBA player has the ability to be able to say, I don't feel like going to work, or I don't feel like not following the rules. I'm going to go do this, go do that. George Hill is a player, in my opinion, that he doesn't have that luxury. So if he's willing to pay the fines, and by all means, hope you got investments.
Kyrie's about to risk $490,000 fines every time he misses a game. So some players got it like that.
Yeah. And I get that is bad. So Aaron Gordon recently was quoted. He put this on his Twitter saying it's starting to get janky. It'd be cool with a bubble if it was in the Bahamas or Hawaii, and we got to bring our family's wife or girlfriend. So, one, I find it funny that he added the girlfriend at the end because he obviously didn't fall under the other categories. So he added the girlfriend. So I thought that was neat. And second, what a typical Orlando thing to say. Like, if you played amateur basketball in Orlando, you were always so upset that all the tournaments were already here and you did zero traveling. like no traveling. This dude is saying, let's do a bubble out in Pleasure Island. Let's do it out in Paradise, because he was not happy that he was confined in Orlando, where he's already in Orlando.
Hey, Orlando is paradise to some.
That's for sure.
That is facts. That is 100% facts. Now you just brought up Kyrie Irving, so obviously the situation in Brooklyn is a little weird. What are your thoughts on that? Because we just all heard the big blockbuster trade of James Harden. Does James Harden getting traded to the Brooklyn Nets, now that he's in the Eastern Conference, does that impact Orlando at all?
I don't think it does, of course, because now they become the top team in the East, the team to beat automatically. They were already kind of the top 3 teams in the East, but this definitely makes them the top team to beat. I don't know, man. That entire situation with the Brooklyn Nets, on paper, they look amazing. The offense is going to be ridiculous. But like you mentioned, Kyrie Irving's not even playing right now, and nobody knows why. The team doesn't know. Nobody knows. If he does come back, they're saying now he's going to have to be on quarantine for up to 14 days because he was seen at a birthday party with no mask and all this stuff. And then James Harden, look at what he put his old team through. And we know KD how sensitive he is. So that entire team, that locker room, man, it's going to be an interesting thing to see this season, how they transition to this new roster and their depth. Their depth is kind of non-existent right now. But I'm sure some veteran free agents are going to go there for cheap because they want to win the ring. But I don't know. I like it on paper. I just don't know how it will work out when actually games are being played.
It's funny because I saw their expected starting 5, and they have Magic legend Jeff Green as their starting center.
That's not happening.
I still can't believe we gave that man $15 million for 1 year.
That was.
That's
dumb.
one of many questionable things Orlando has done. But I think James Harden to Brooklyn is interesting, right? Because obviously there's the dynamic of James Harden and KD playing together in the past. Obviously, none of them were at the caliber of player that they are today. And I don't think it'll be difficult for James and KD to work together. I think what makes that interesting is the Kyrie dynamic, right? I think this idea that James can't, or like he won't be the second or third guy, I don't know how much of that is real and how much of that is just the media kind of just putting stories out there to have something to talk about. I think that if you're a part of a team as, let's say, talent concentrated as Brooklyn is about to be, I think you all understand that if you play within the scope of your game, you're going to the NBA Finals. And I think at that point, it's an ego conversation. And I think all 3 guys will be willing to take a step back to let the other thrive if it means that they win a ring.
When the trade initially went down, obviously I had the feeling that he was going to go to Brooklyn. Philly didn't make sense because they didn't want to trade James Harden back to the former to Daryl Morey. So Brooklyn kind of, I saw that was happening. What I didn't see happening was the fact that it was a 4-team trade. And Al, I want to say that I had saw that your tweet that you had posted saying, man, please, let the Magic be somewhere in the mix for Chris LeVert. And when it didn't happen and I saw everything roll out, I thought to myself, like, man, why can't we do fun things? Like, why can't our organization be a little risking of some sort? Like, why can't we go out there and have fun and be Like, you take a look at Cleveland.
Yo,
Cleveland got
They
better.
got a great deal in that trade.
And what did they give up? Dante Exum? An injured Dante Exum?
And a second round pick.
And a second round pick?
That's it. And they got a role player in Prince, and they also got a great young center in Allen. So, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it takes two to work out a trade. We know that. But, I mean, Caris LeVert is a name that we've mentioned numerous times in Orlando Magic Twitter, at least. How can we – I mean, so what they gave up, Indiana gave up for him, was Oladipo, who's an expiring contract. That's what they were after. And a second round pick. So I know it's going to go to Justin's. I'm going to get on Justin's bad side here, but if you were to trade Evan Fournier's expiring contract, money works 100%, and heck, throw in there a second round pick or first round pick in a few years, they would do it too because they were after their expiring contract and a pick, and now you have a young shooting guard with potential to develop with your young crew that you have in Orlando. But of course, that did not happen.
Yeah,
Who would
and
be
then
the young shooting guard? You're talking about Oladipo, right?
No.
Evan Fournier.
You trade him for Caris LeVert and a pick.
Oh, for Caris LeVert. Okay.
So, I mean, so in one of the ways that it could impact the Magic, right, is it was also reported that Victor Oladipo doesn't want to play for Houston, and he's still trying to find his way to get to Miami. Victor Oladipo is a player that a lot of people have mixed feelings for. You either really like him or you really don't. And I feel as if the majority of the fan base, the Magic fan base, they really don't want anything to do with Oladipo. But in my opinion, I really don't want anything to do with Oladipo in Miami because then that would really help their roster out. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Does it impact the Magic? Brooklyn trading for James Harden? Not really, because Brooklyn, we had already envisioned them being a heavy hitter in the East with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Let's say that Kyrie Irving doesn't come back for whatever his strange reasons are. They have James Harden, and James Harden and Kevin Durant together is already going to be a problem. So if those two, obviously with Russell Westbrook and others, if they were able to make it to the finals in the West Coast together as like young players, imagine what they're able to do in a weaker conference in their prime.
Yeah,
it's going to be
insane.
nuts. But let's get into the numbers. Let's talk Magic basketball in depth. So it's been a rough couple weeks. Magic are 6-5. Believe it or not, we're still in playoff contention. We are currently 5th in the East. Points per game, we're averaging 106.1, which has us 27th in the league. 3-point percentage, we're at 28th, averaging 32.5. Our shooting has been struggling. Offensive rating, 105.5. Has us 25th. Defense points allowed, 110.3, which has us 13th in the league. Blocking, we're averaging 3.0, which has us 30th. And defensive rating, 109.7, which has us 16th. Normally, our defense is our bread and butter. And, that just hasn't been the case.
You know what's funny is as you're reading these numbers, for how long can the Magic keep that same trend in the offensive side of things? 30th, 28th, 27th, 28th, 29th. At the very least, since I moved to Orlando in 2016, I decided to go into every single game. Man, it's been 5 years since that, and nothing has changed. Our offense still struggles, to put it kindly.
I think a lot of times people talk about the defense being Orlando's strong suit, and it's not. I mean, we're bottom half of the league in offense, and we're really bottom half of the league in defense. Other than points allowed at 110.3, which ranks us at 13th, everything else we're high 20s, with the exception of defensive rating where we're 16th, which is right under the halfway point. So this team is not playing well right now. I understand that there's a lot of guys that are injured on this team, but there's a lot of veterans on this team that are healthy. And the team's just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I think if we're going to defer blame to the fact that a lot of the guys are injured, we also have to justly criticize those who are playing, who have been in the league 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, with the exception of Vucevic and Terrence Ross, aren't producing enough for this team to be competitive.
Yeah, but a lot of that has to do with who we have at the helm. I mean, you take a look at the coaching that we've had. You have let's just go back to Scott Skiles. We went from Scott Skiles to Steve Clifford, both defensive-minded coaches that, not that they ignore the offense, but obviously a lot of their effort goes into the defensive end.
Don't forget about Frank Vogel in that too, defensive coach.
Yeah, that's right. Frank Vogel also.
But I think you can't just. I don't know if it's as easy as just looking at the coaching staff and saying, well, they're defensive minded, so obviously the offense is going to struggle. I think learning to play defense in the NBA, at an elite level teaches discipline, right? And I think that discipline is probably the most important aspect that you can have in order to win a championship. So I don't think that's the problem. I think it's just that, number one, I don't think we have guys that mesh well together. And I think that some of the guys' weak points are not other guys' strong points. So when everybody's weak point is offense, then obviously you're not going to be able to put something together where the offense is better. I don't know, man. I think we're sitting fifth because we got off to a 4-0 start and we have a little bit of padding there. But I think we're playing like a 13th, 14th seed right now.
Yeah, can we go back to our full 4-0 start where all our players were healthy? You got people in the media that were apologizing, saying, "I'm so sorry, Kendrick Perkins,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I doubted you guys."
I think we jinxed it a little bit, not just us, but everybody who covered Orlando, right? We got really excited over a 4-0 start, knowing that we didn't really play great competition. We played below average competition in OKC.
We played against the Miami Heat, the defending Eastern Conference champions.
Yeah,
First game.
was game one.
But to be fair, though,
outperformed.
but to be fair, I mean, yeah, we started 4-0. The losing started when the injuries started happening, unfortunately. That's when we started losing Evan Fournier. We started losing Marco Carter-Williams. So I think it goes hand in hand, too. Then, unfortunately, we'll talk about it next. Markelle Fultz went down, too. So, I mean, I think injuries haven't helped us. I think a healthy Orlando Magic team right now could have beaten Houston. They could have beaten probably Dallas. We were in that game till the very end of that game. Again, we're playing with a rookie point guard right now and a ton of injuries all around.
I think we say that often. I think, and I'm not trying to make this a hate on the Magic episode, but we make excuses for why this team isn't good time and time again. And I think ultimately the problem is we don't have a scorer, we don't have a natural scorer, and we're failing to make that adjustment.
Yeah, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. So just going through the games that we had real quick. Wednesday, we played against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Magic won 105-94. This was the game that Ross scored 20 points off the bench. Friday, Orlando 90. Houston gave us that whoop in 132-90. Vucevic led the way with 22 points and 12 rebounds. Saturday, the Magic played against the Dallas Mavericks. Vucevic, another strong game, finishing with 30 points, 15 rebounds. And then Monday, we played against Milwaukee, 121-99. In my opinion, this was a game that we should have had, man. We were up until the fourth quarter. We were with them until the fourth quarter and then kind of just ran away from us. So that was a game that Vooch, again, 28 points and 13 rebounds. If there's one thing that you're getting from all of this, is the fact that Nikola Vucevic is a monster. And for those of you who are listening, for those of you that are on social media saying that Vucevic, you need to trade him now, you are bananas. If we talk about the only bright spot about the Orlando Magic is Nikola Vucevic, and if you don't think that this man is a top 5 big in the NBA, you're out of your mind. And this dude has already gave 10 seasons with the Magic and deserves all the flowers that this dude is going to get in the future for the amount of time and his level of play that he's had with us.
Agreed 100%.
What are some of the things that you guys saw these last 4 games that kind of stood out to you? This was obviously a stretch where we really got impacted by the injuries and where we started seeing a decline in play.
Just, again, unfortunately, the lack of depth that we have now all of a sudden. Our biggest strength coming into the season was supposed to be depth. You looked at the 1 through 15, this team that they put together, you could say they can all play in the NBA. All these dudes can. With the exception of Jordan Bone and Monet, we didn't know much about them. But the other 15 dudes in the roster were like, hey, this dude can play anytime. Unfortunately, half of our roster, it's now down. All the vets, Okiki's down. Now Markel's out. It's hard in the NBA to win when you don't have a healthy team, unfortunately. And the other teams have had healthy teams for the most part. Even Cleveland, we beat them that Wednesday, but in reality, they were down Sexton. They were down a bunch of dudes that they normally would play. So even that one win that we got, I wouldn't consider it a huge win or anything crazy that we did that night. And then the other games were more realistic. Houston spanked us. Dallas, we kind of played tight with them until the fourth quarter as well. And then Milwaukee, we couldn't keep up in the fourth quarter again. Lack of depth. So unfortunately, it's showing. And unless injuries just stop for this team, it's going to be a rough month for us in January.
Yeah. Elise wrote an article for the Zone BB, Mr. Consistent, Nikola Vucevic, which I do think everyone should go check out. But I did want to read a little excerpt from it. She said, only 11 games into the season, and the all-time made field goals leader for Orlando Magic is currently averaging 22.5 points per game, 11.3 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game, while shooting 50% from the field and 41.8% from behind the three-point line. I mean, if that doesn't show you that Vucevic is consistently improving and literally carrying this team for as much as he could, he needs help offensively. That's just what it is. No matter how great you are as a player, no one player in today's NBA can make you competitive. There's just too much talent disbursement. So unless Orlando decides to utilize Vucevic now and utilize his ability now and partner him with somebody who can contribute offensively in a major way, I think they need to move him for his sake, because he'll end up spending the rest of his elite years in Orlando never truly competing. And I don't know, man. I don't think that's fair for him. I think recently, for a long time, I hated on the great guys, like KD, LeBron, Steph, and I didn't appreciate their greatness. And I'm not saying that Vucevic is on that level, but what I've learned over time is that when you have a man who's contributing at a high level, and who's, the game is slowing down for him and it's beautiful to watch, you need to complement that immediately. So while people hate on the fact that, you have James Harden joining forces with Kyrie and KD and saying how it's unfair, you have to maximize the good years that your players have. And I just don't see Orlando doing that.
Yeah, man, I feel real bad for him because Nikola Vucevic is 30, turning 31 in October. And how many more years of this level of play does he really have left? The great thing about Nikola Vucevic is that he's not athletic, right? Everything that he's doing right now can sustain length in the future. But at the same time, it feels like this is a wasted year. No Jonathan Isaac. Markelle Fultz is out for the season with a torn ACL. Injured players left and right. Obviously, this year is a little funky because you have so many issues with the NBA and COVID. But I do really feel bad for Nikola because he's playing out of his mind. He's the only consistent thing that we know that it's a sure thing going into every single game. He's a problem. The other team needs to worry about him. And what is it for this season? In all honesty, with the injuries that we have, what is it for? Nikola Vucevic, as great as I think that he is, it's not enough for just him by himself to carry the team. I agree with you, Justin. He needs to have that other person. And who do we have? Your options are Aaron Gordon. Your options are Evan Fournier. Your options are Cole Anthony. Like the person that he plays the best with right now is maybe Terrence Ross, but that's about it. He needs some help, and right now we don't have it.
Yeah, that's what leads to the conversation of what do you do with him? Is this the time where, hey, his value is at an all-time high? Is this when you maybe consider trading him for his own sake, but also for our sakes? Because we need talent in this team, and that's one way of getting it. You trade that superstar player who, unfortunately, is on a team right now that's hurt, and our key players, Markelle Fultz, J.I., are not coming back until another season. So what do you do now? Fournier is expiring. Gordon, we've heard him many, many times. It's on his way out. So is this a year, you guys think, that Orlando makes those moves that we've been waiting for a while, where you break up those three players and start seeing something, whether it's building for the future or it is you package them for a star. You can say, hey, let's build around that star instead of J.I. and Fultz, because unfortunately they have some major injuries to deal with right now.
Yeah, so when people talk about, should the Magic tank, should they not tank, I think there's valid arguments on both ends. But for a team like the Magic to tank, when you have Vucevic playing at a level where if he sustains this throughout the season, the man could be an MVP and All-NBA team talks. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to win MVP. We know it's a popularity contest. Unless Orlando makes it to the playoffs, there's no way he's even, you know what I mean? But you can't talk about seriously tanking when you have a guy in his prime who's giving you all he can give you offensively. That's not fair to him.
Yeah, and I already said it, but I do feel bad. So one of the things I've always said is I wonder how Nikola Vucevic would fare on a roster if he had another player where he wasn't the number one option. So, for example, let's say that you paired him with a player like, I'm just going to throw it out, Bradley Beal. Like, where the game would come so much easier for him because he doesn't have the pressure of everything being ran through him, which I'm sure he doesn't mind, but he just has that other player that can help and support him at the high level that he was doing. So it's shameful because let's say that the Magic do decide, hey, you know, we just, it doesn't make sense for you to be on our roster. They trade him. This dude is going to excel on wherever team he gets moved to. Not saying that he's in trade talks, not saying any of that, but if they decided, because obviously this is a conversation that we have every year, hey, you got to break up the core, hey, you got to break up the three. If there's anyone from the three that in my opinion, I would not want moved, is Nikola Vucevic. But if he is moved, that dude's going to bring so much to another team that it's going to be, he's a player that they're going to bring that player in and he's going to take that team to the next level.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you think that being injured again gives the front office the excuse to not make significant moves and start next year saying, let's run it back a fourth time now? I know Fournier's expiring and all, but do you guys see two of those three guys coming back because of the injuries?
Not because of the injury. I think if they don't move Vooch by trade deadline, I think that, or AG, because I really don't think Evan gets moved. So if they don't move one of those two dudes by deadline, I think we'll be running it back again. I hate, criticizing the front office because I feel like obviously they know more than we do. They have a plan, or you hope that they have a plan in place. But man, it just feels like they might have had a direction, but now with all of these injuries, you have two cornerstone players that are out for a minimum of one full season. I don't know. You're stuck in a tough spot because you're kind of being forced to make moves now to answer for what's going to be cleared up in one season. You know what I mean?
There's already been rumors and speculations before the season started that Evan Fournier was looking at other teams or is looking at other teams, right? Even if we don't trade Evan, there's no way that dude is back. There's there's 0% that's
yeah.
happening.
If I had to put a percentage on that, I would say it's less than 5%. And by this, I mean by the deadline. I don't think the Magic will want to lose him for nothing. And by that, expiring contract, just let him walk. I don't think so. I think you'll see him go into look at the Hawks right now. The two free agent pickups just went down with injuries, knee injuries. Are they a team that make a move just to kind of get Fournier in their roster? I know he likes Denver. He played there before. Sacramento, we talked about before. It's going to come down to the teams that are playing well, that need that scoring to go to the next level.
Justin, I have a question. If you are a free agent, you're in a contract year, right? You're about to be a free agent. You're on a team that have already gone through numerous injuries. The likelihood of the Magic making the playoffs is very, very, it's wishy-washy. You really don't know. And you have an injury like a back spasm. Would you be in a rush to get back on the floor?
I think that a back spasm is a symptom, not the injury. I think I don't. Wait. So I don't think I have
context.
I don't have enough information to say, Evan should play or should not play.
I didn't say a name.
I was there when during the Philly game, sitting behind the Magic bench when Evan was complaining from the back spasms. And that man tried to play. I saw it with my own eyes. He was complaining about it pregame. He was getting it worked on pregame. He came out onto the floor. He played. When he went back into the huddle, it looked like there was conversations, and it looked like he wanted to continue playing, but he was in pain. So I can't say, yes or no. What I would say is that throughout history, Fournier seems as the type of guy who does not run from playing basketball. You know what I mean? And he answers when he needs to answer. So if I go based on history, I would say there has to be something bugging Evan, unless Orlando is actively in trade talks and purposefully holding him out of games, which would be against league policy. So I would hope they didn't do that. But that would be the only reason why other than a serious injury, why I see Evan not playing. Why I would see Evan not playing.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it can be swayed that it's lingering way more than it should. This team can't survive. Listen, as bad as we may or may not have talked about Evan Fournier, this team cannot survive without him.
We need that man.
Yes, man.
Oh,
we
man.
need him.
Can both of y'all say it real quick? Who do we need?
Wait, I'm going to change my answer real quick. We need a shooting guard that can shoot the ball.
And how many of those available are better than Evan Fournier?
I will take JJ Redick back. Give me anybody, bro. Just anybody that can shoot the ball.
JJ Redick is not available. He's on a roster currently.
No, but we can trade him.
You guys are haters. But ultimately, Evan Fournier is a high-level shooting guard. We need to make his role work in Orlando. But when you look at, okay, it's time to move Evan, unless you're going to package him for a superstar, it doesn't make sense to let him walk.
Now, but on a serious note, I will say this about our front office, Evan, the whole team. I will say this. When this team has been healthy in the last 2 seasons, and by that I mean the 1 week that we were healthy, this team has looked really, really good. We saw a little bit of it in the bubble when J.I. came back. Markel was coming back as well. And, man, like we were blowing teams out. This season, we were down Aminu, Ennis, J.I., and we started 4-0 in the season. So we've seen glimpses of what this team can be. And that's what makes me feel bad about the front office. They had a plan. They had an idea of, hey, this is how we want to build this team. We're going to win with this roster. Unfortunately, injuries got in the way. We haven't seen any of it. And it sucks. But at this point, as a front office, you got to decide. Do you move forward with youth and let's go to young movement and kind of do a mini rebuild again? Or like Ant said, do you pull the trigger and say, hey, let's trade a whole package like Houston just did and go grab ourselves another star because Vooch deserves that. And let's go around and build something that can last starting this season. It's tough.
I think that Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
We got punched,
so Orlando
kicked,
got punched
everything.
in the face. So now how do you move forward? You can't keep the same roster that you have, and I know you're going to talk about the DPEs and stuff that the Magic receive, but you can't continue to keep this roster and expect a different result. If you're going to continue to keep this roster, then make it broadcasted like, hey, we're kind of looking forward to next year. This year, we're not going to really do much. We just don't have the assets, and we're unwilling to retool.
Yeah, and Jeff Altman, in an interview with Josh Robbins in the beginning of the season, he didn't rule out just blowing everything up as an option. He didn't rule it out. So I'm sure that it's still within the midst of thoughts and conversations. But it's weird, man. You don't, in this situation, you really don't know what to do, especially when you have a very small sample size as this team is able to play well if they're able to play together and they are healthy. But it seems like every year we have that sample size and then injuries happen and then, green passes are being sent to everyone saying that, well, we would have did all right if we would have had healthy players, or we would have been good if this would have happened in the playoffs. There's just so many ifs, ands, and buts that we really say what you want, but they kind of do have a point. I hate it, but they kind of do have a point. But it's the NBA. A lot of these teams, they're able to stay healthy and they're able to make moves and make changes and make adjustments. We got to be able to do the same thing. So one of the things that the Magic have done since Markelle Fultz was injured with the torn ACL is they applied for a $6.1 million DPE, disabled player exception, in connection with Markelle's season-ending injury. So what are your thoughts on the Magic at least filing for the DPE, and how do you think that this could benefit the team moving forward?
I think it just gives us options, right? So we have one already for JI. We have another one now that I'm pretty sure is going to get approved for Markelle Fultz. So if you make a trade, you could do a 2-for-1, 3-for-1 type of trade, knowing that once you pull that trade over, you have 2 roster spots open or 1, and then use that exemption to add another player via free agency if that's how you want to pursue that other player. So it gives you options. Josh Robbins has said it. He doesn't think the team is going to use the exemption at this time. We don't have any roster spots open, and the only logical guy that you would drop if you wanted to use it is It's Clark. And again, I don't see that happening at this time. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Gary Clark has the smallest contract on the roster. A lot of people, I saw that they have commented, well, why don't we just drop Jordan Bone and Kareem Mané? And unfortunately, they are not eligible because they are two-way players, and you can only replace a two-way player with a two-way player. But let's say that they were to use it. Let's say that they find a way to open up a roster spot. Who would you want the Magic to use it on, and who do you think would be the right fit?
I'm looking at the free agent list, but I would assume it'd have to be a guard, right? A point guard preferably, because Cole Anthony, we're throwing him in there, and he's trying valiantly. I just think he needs to develop as a player, and I think that he's not in a position where he's going to help this team right now as a starting point guard.
I know one name that has been thrown left and right on Instagram is Isaiah Thomas, which we almost signed a few years back. Since then, he's supposedly now all healed again and healthy. That's the one name I've seen out there. Hey, on a year where you're not really playing for much except to try to win games, that may not be a bad option.
Yeah, and from my understanding, in order to use a DPE, it has to be on a player that is on an expiring contract. From my
if you
understanding.
do a trade, correct, it's got to go to that roster spot has to be
Correct.
filled by someone on an expiring contract.
And I've looked at different websites not just talking about DPEs, just talking about acquiring a veteran point guard to replace Markelle Fultz. One of the mock trades that I saw was from the Detroit Pistons. One of their website blogs is that they had Orlando Magic trading away James Ennis, a future first rounder, for Derrick Rose.
That makes a lot of sense. If you think about the way that Rose plays and what he can add to a team, it's kind of similar to Markelle does, right? He attacks the rim. He shoots a mid-range shot really well. He can hit some threes, but he adds that veteran presence in the locker room if you're trying to compete this season, right, and win some games. I'm not sure if the salaries would work in that scenario, because I think Rose makes a little bit more money than Ennis for sure. So I think it might have been Aminu that they threw in that scenario. But yeah, maybe it would work. It's just a matter of
free agent options. I mean, I think Isaiah Thomas is obviously a great candidate. I don't see why people dislike him so much, other than the fact that he's undersized and the obvious comparison of him and DJ Augustine based off size. But Isaiah Thomas plays, in my opinion, bigger than his size. I think people forget this man scored multiple 50-point games, took the Celtics, to the second round of the playoffs, on the tail end of losing his sister and traveling back between Boston and Seattle or Tacoma. I don't know. I think this is a man who had success in the NBA, who is familiar with playing in a winning culture, playing against or playing around, surrounded by high-level players. And I think he's a veteran that'll definitely help Cole Anthony out. Another one that I think Orlando should look at, Shabazz Napier. He played here already. I think we ended up trading him to Portland, if I'm not mistaken. Shabazz is another dude that could ball. I mean, he has handles. He could shoot. Again, he's undersized at that position. But in a situation where we are, you can't really look for all of the pluses. You know what I mean? You're going to have to take some detriments with whoever it is that you select. And this team struggles offensively. Those are two guys who are going to help you produce points on the offensive end.
Yeah, I like the idea of Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas's name has been linked to the Magic for the last couple of seasons, primarily from the fan base, more so from media outlets. But he's also a Husky. I mean, you're talking about a veteran player that has been an all-star, that's been able to play and lead a team during his days as a Boston Celtic. And not only would he be able to help Cole Anthony as a undersized point guard, but he can also help Markelle Fultz, who's dealing with an injury also. Yeah. And just talking about mentally how to get through it. They come from the same university, so there's a brotherhood right there as it is. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, not to mention that Husky life, but Terrence Ross also went to UW, so that's another guy that, they'll have some type of bonding to undergo. I don't know. I think it's the right move. Now we just got to see how long it'll take Orlando to realize it.
Yeah, because right now, so Cole Anthony, he's been struggling as a starting point guard since Markelle went down Wednesday during the Cavs game. He's been averaging 10.8 points per game on just 34% shooting from the field, and he's averaging 12.5% from the three-point line, along with just 2.8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2.8 turnovers. He's doing what he can. The fan base, we can't expect too much from Cole Anthony because he's still a rookie point guard. Listen, when we were fully healthy, I looked forward to the second unit coming into the game. Yeah. Like, I literally look forward to Cole Anthony, Terrence Ross, Kemba. Like, I look forward to Moki. I look forward to seeing them in the game. And anything that he did was it was bonus. Because we wanted them to go out there and learn how to play and get accustomed to the NBA game. They didn't have the summer league. They didn't have the month in advance where they were able to get adjusted with the team and the coaching staff. They didn't have any of that. So throwing him out to the Wolves could be either a good thing, could be a bad thing. But right now, it's struggling. So bringing in another player, another veteran point guard, even if they don't start, but at least having that voice in game that can kind of help him along the way, I think it's very, very beneficial.
So the 12.5% on 3-point, when I saw that, I thought it was a typo. So I actually had to go and research it myself, and that is accurate. I think what's holding Cole back is the pace of play. Cole Anthony is a dude that plays well in high-paced basketball, and we still see, Vucevic is running, he's jumping a little more active on defense. But as long as this team doesn't get out in the open and run, the young guys are going to struggle. In the half-court game, you're asking Cole Anthony to lead the charge, to also slow the tempo down, to get Vooch involved, and then also be a three-point threat. All in his 11 games into his professional career, that's a lot.
I will say this, man. Like, you guys know, again, I watched the Warriors outside of the Magic. And one thing that I would say about them, man, is how fun it is to watch them play. Even in a season where they don't have the whole roster, right? Because they don't have Clay, they don't have all these players that they're supposed to have to be a top team. No matter what, I can watch the Warriors just by 20 points and still enjoy the game because how beautiful their offense is. One thing I've noticed, which I think I tweeted last week about Cole Anthony, is the lack of creativity to get him open shots. The way that the offense is being ran right now, he's bringing the ball up. It's either a pick and roll, which is going to force him his way to a layup, and it's getting blocked or stripped, or he's sitting in the corner the whole time. That's it. There's nothing else that's being ran for him. I would love to see the team run offense for him like they do for Terrence Ross, coming off screens, getting creative to get him open shots because he can shoot the ball. We've seen it in college. His shot is nice looking. Like, he can shoot the ball. I just think that the way he's being handled at this moment is not the right way. He's being used as if he was a veteran point guard, and he's not.
So are you 100% down to let Aaron Gordon run the point forward position and just have Cole play off ball? I mean,
it's funny you say that. Ann and I went to the Bucks game together, and I kept telling him, like, listen, like, I don't mind that scenario where AG plays that point forward, he brings the ball up, and he creates the offense. AG, for all that we may not like about him at some point, he can pass the ball. He can see the open teammate. He can create for others. So at this moment, I wouldn't mind seeing that, where he becomes the primary ball handler, and you have Cole Anthony be more of a shooting guard out there rather than the guy controlling the ball.
Right.
We don't even like AG playing the 3. We're going to let AG play the 1.
But funny enough, the AG that plays the 3 is the one that's taking, this fadeaway three-point shots, and he's trying to create too much. But when you see him running the point, he sticks with the game plan, which is pick and rolls, which is trying to get to the basket and pass to the open teammate. So I don't know if it's mental with him, but when he's told, like, hey, you're in control of creating offense, he does a good job. When he tries to be the Paul George out there, that's not his game.
Yeah, I mean, I read the same article from Josh Robbins where you said that it's very unlikely that the Magic would use any of the exceptions, that they did get the DPs or they applied for it just out of due diligence and just to be able to have that option just in case. But I think that it's going to take a little more than just waiting for things to get better for the team and for Cole Anthony. I definitely think that he needs support. And, you never know. In the NBA, everything happens so fast, and hopefully they surprise you.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, but now with the injuries, we're starting to see more minutes for Mo Bamba. What are your thoughts on what he's been able to contribute to the team?
So we were starting to see more minutes for Bamba, right? Because he's not playing.
Correct.
He's not playing against Boston on Friday. So I don't know. Here we go again with the up and down minutes, injuries. I think
He's not playing due to minutes or injuries. Is because of COVID-19 tracing.
Correct. I mean, in the limited action that we've seen him out there, he hasn't played that much, but in the limited time that he's been out there, I've noticed that Obama is a little bit more active than he used to be. I don't know about you guys, but I've seen a guy that's at least going for rebounds a little more. He had a highlight block right away when he came into the game the other day that led to a Aaron Gordon dunk. He seems a little more active. I'm not sure, again, like we talked about before in previous episodes, if it has to do with a Cole Anthony kind of relationship and him being on the team and kind of pushing him a little more. Not sure if that's what it is. But, again, we haven't seen him enough. If you look at his averages, though, in the last 4 games and compare it to Cam Birch, he's averaging 1.5 points less and 3 rebounds less than him, but in half the time. So we all talk about this amazing, like, we love how Cam Birch plays. I'm one of his biggest fans, don't get me wrong. But if Mo Bamba gets his same minutes and he gets a chance out there, would he do the same or worse? We don't know that yet. But again, I just hope he gets healthy, and I hope we start seeing him get some minutes consistently. He deserves it, and we all want to see him out there. This is a guy that we drafted 6th in the draft. We want to see him play.
Listen, he was recently quoted, "I'm hungry, I'm ready to go." That's a different mentality from the low motor Mo Bamba that people are expecting. You can tell that he has an itch to get out there. He does still look a little nervous, but I mean, he hasn't played basketball for a minute and still getting adjusted and acclimated is going to take some time. During that Bucks game, he had that one strong play where he had a really massive block, and then on the other side, he sprinted down and was able to make a really big offensive play. So I'm a Mo Bamba fan. I'm rooting for him. I just really hope that in spite of all the injuries that we have, that he's able to add some positive contributions. Now, so Al, you had mentioned that we were at the game, and one of the things that we saw is the addition or the added brand new City Edition jerseys. So a lot of the fans, they were able to see it from home, obviously. What are your thoughts on this year's City Edition jerseys compared to last year? Are you shooting or passing on them now that you're able to see them in person?
I'm shooting on them. I like it. It has more of an Orlando Magic flow to it. The star, the spin stripes. It looks different. The white's really, really white. The orange is really orange. And the court did not match one bit. I wish the court matched the jerseys. I'm going to say that because they have last year's court out there. But as far as the jerseys go, I like them. Again, they have more of an Orlando Magic flow to it than last year's City Edition.
Nah, last year's City Edition I hated until I saw them in person, and then I really liked them. This year, I thought I liked the color scheme. I thought it was dope, but then seeing the jerseys on the players left a little bit for me. Like, I desired more from it. But history shows I'm a hater. So, over time, I may like them more. But right now, I'm good.
I think the white it pops so much more on the court. I really, really wish that they would have had the court that matches, because the only thing that I really didn't like is the fact that the logo that we had for last season, with the secondary Orlando Magic logo, was orange, and then it had that bullet gray, and then this season is more orange and just white. So the fact that we had that logo on the jerseys, but we had last season's logo color scheme on the court, that was a little confusing. Obviously, you still have that little bit of gray on the jersey that I guess it kind of matches if you're looking at it with one eye open. I just wish that they would have made that adjustment. Very similar to, like, if we take a look at the Miami Heat. They have their City Edition jerseys, and the court that they have matches it perfectly. I don't like it, but it matches it perfectly. Wish we would have did the same. Jumping into our next pass or shoot, the season is lost. Should we let the young guys play and just pick things up next season? Should we tank away?
I'm going to say shoot, just because I think this team needs a solid draft pick that hopefully can truly become that star that we've been seeking for such a long time. And next year's draft, more than any other draft in recent memory, has that kind of talent, or it's supposed to at least. We're supposed to have talented players like 1 through 10 in that draft. I would hate for the Magic to pick 16th again and be picking someone who's supposed to be good years on the road rather than a guy that can make a difference next year or quickly after we draft him. Again, this team has to decide what to do. Either we move forward with the young guys, we do another small rebuild while J.I. and Fultz come back, but we got to figure it out, man. We cannot keep rolling out there the same dudes and expect different results. So if it was up to me, I would say embrace losing the season and go from there.
I'm a pass. Losing the season no longer guarantees that you're going to have a top draft pick. So that would be my first argument. Second argument is what we talked about earlier. Vucevic is playing too well to just throw the season away without moving him. And number three, I think it's 11 games in. You want to talk about throwing the season away already? I mean, you still have Cole Anthony, who, was drafted with the 15th pick, was projected to go top 10 before injury, projected to go top 3 in high school, projected to go top 5. I mean, I think it's too soon. Chuma Okeke didn't have a season-ending injury. He had, I believe, a knee contusion that he should be back from in a couple weeks. Evan Fournier is going to come back. And the idea of retooling through the draft, I mean, how many young guys do you need to draft before it's like, okay, well, we need some veterans to step in because the young guys aren't cutting it. You have J.I., who's still, in the first 4 years of his career. Markelle Fultz, the same thing. Chuma Okeke, Cole Anthony, Mo Bamba. How many, now Jordan Bone, how many young guys are you going to add hoping that one of them takes off? You have to give these guys proper time. You have to hope that they stay healthy. And in the meantime, veterans win championships. Veterans compete. Young guys don't. They can help their teams a little bit, but name one young guy that you're putting the entire team on their back and is carrying them to postseason play and championships.
Let me ask you this real quick.
The guys who have...
Let me ask you this real quick. So even if you say you pick up Isaiah Thomas in free agency and you bring him to this team right now and you keep the roster the same, you're trying to compete this season, and you're playing the Nets in the first round, that's the 8th seed, what are you accomplishing another year? What are you going to do? What do we do? If we win one game, we beat them game 1 again.
The idea has always been that the front office believes that the best way to develop these young players is to put them in a position where
Correct.
they're able to play meaningful games.
100%.
So if you have a roster that you're able to play and you see that that's what we're aiming for, like that's within reach, not the play-in tournament. I mean, you can kind of consider the play-in tournament, just depending on how the structure is, as a meaningful game. But the playoff is the absolute goal. And if you have a shot at the playoffs, then you definitely have to you have to go for it. But at the same time, tank for Cade, man. Cade Cunningham. That's if you're looking at a player to get. There's a lot. This draft is supposed to be one of the most talented drafts that we've had in a very long while. And if you plan on tanking, this is the draft to tank for. Now, will the Magic do it? They've shown that they have never been for tank. They will never admit it. Quite frankly, we're terrible at tanking. And the only way that that's really going to happen is if we see something crazy and Nikola Vucevic gets shut down for the season. That's not going to happen. Question is, can we make the playoffs without Markelle Fultz, without our starting point guard?
There's two players that come to mind when you talk about like Cade Cunningham and just like the possibility of projected college athletes being great in the NBA. Like Anthony Bennett was selected number 1 overall. Darko Milicic was taken number 2 over Carmelo Anthony. Your projection for a draft and what people think you're going to be before you even play one game in the professional league, it really means nothing. That I feel like that's something that we talk about. You know what I mean? But there's a plan. Like these guys go into the draft with option 1, option 2, option 3. At the end of the day, what matters is your development team, right? And the chemistry on the team. Going based off of, this guy played well in college, it should transfer over. Markelle played well in college. Jonathan Isaac played well in college. Anthony Bennett played well in college. Victor Oladipo, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't directly transfer to the NBA. So I think tanking in hopes of grabbing one of these guys, it's like, first of all, you're hoping that you get him, and then you're hoping that he turns out to be what you all projected him to be. I think tanking is a bad idea. It's a surefire way to fail. The way that you keep these guys engaged and developing is, like Ant said, that has been kind of the motto for this team, which is play as well as you can and play in games that matter.
It's tough, man, because, again, as you guys know, I go to every Magic game. I root for this team, as you guys know, with all I got. It's my team. I want to see them win. My goal when I first moved to Orlando and I started going to Magic games was to make the playoffs. I wanted to see this team make the playoffs, and that was my thing. Like, I want to go to a playoff game. We finally made that happen last year, or 2 years ago. We won one game. That was awesome. Game 1, that was. But Game 3, the experience, being live at a playoff game was amazing. But this is a year where, again, we're at a point right now where we've tried this roster. If you want to think about this, 6 seasons we've had Vucevic, Gordon, Fournier as the guys in this team. We're now going in a season where you don't have J.I., which is your main star, or Markelle Fultz, your secondary star that you're kind of building around. They're not here anymore. So playing those meaningful games, okay, for Cole Anthony, Okiki, Mo Bamba, okay, I get it. Makes sense. But your 2 main stars are not playing. So if you have a chance to speed up the rebuild a little bit or the transformation of this team a little bit to get a better young player in the draft, well, also you're going to get assets. If you make a trade for Gordon or Fournier, whoever it is, you're going to get assets back, whatever those are. So you can do something where this team finally turns the page while at the same time thinking of next year as a year where you say, hey, next year's our year. Now we got J.I., now we got a second year Cole Anthony, a better Mo Bamba, hopefully. I just don't know what we're doing by just continuing to try to make this team slightly better to make it to the 8th seed, just to say that we made the playoffs. We've done that already. Where are we?
We have, really quick, just looking at the roster really quick, we have Aminu, who's going into his second year with the team. Cole Anthony, year 1. Dwayne Bacon, year 1. Mo Bamba, year 3. Ken Birch, year 4. Jordan Bone, year 1. Michael Carter-Williams, year 2. Gary Clark, year 2. James Ennis, year 2. Markelle Fultz, year 2. Or year 3, sorry. Jonathan Isaac, same thing. Chuma Okeke, all of these guys are so new. Like, I just don't see how you look at guys who've been here for 1 season, 2 seasons at the max, and you're like, hey, guys, we're just going to throw it all away. We have 2 cornerstone pieces that are injured.
You missed my point there. The guys I'm talking about are the ones that have been here since 2014, 2015, that are still our superstars.
But by making that decision, you're not just impacting those guys. You're impacting the guys who actually came here to play, who are looking to be competitive and develop their skills. And you're telling them it's okay to throw away the season, like we're not good enough anyway. I just don't see how that helps the team be better in the long run.
But that has never been a form of tanking in the NBA. There's never been a conversation with the front office and the players saying, hey, I want you guys to go out there and miss every shot. I want you to throw the game. There's never been a conversation in any tanking. What the front office do is that they tie the players' hands. So whether you shut players down, whether you trade certain players, that's how the tanking kind of goes about. We're already there. We're not even trying to tank, and we're tanking. We don't have the quality of talented roster to be able to compete at a high level to.
We have 7 injured players,
and
guys.
that's what I'm saying. We're tanking without even tanking. Nikola Vucevic, Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross, Aaron Gordon, even if they're playing at their best right now, their best, not the best, their best, it may not be enough. They need help.
When everybody who's injured, with the exception of Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac, will come back this season. Do you guys, you're aware of that? Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz were not major point producers on offense. So if everybody except them 2 are coming back, I just don't see how you're just saying, well, we're not going to compete at all. I don't know.
No, but your vision's a little bit short-sighted because we talked about it. Evan Fournier, again, whether you like it or not, or whether we agree or not, it's not going to be here long term. So what we're saying is, do you speed up that trade? Because again, you already don't have your 2 young stars. The team is injured. Say we go on a 3-5 game losing streak. Do you push that trade a little quicker? Because you don't need Fournier here if we're not going to make the playoffs. Let's be realistic. That's kind of where the conversation kind of starts. It's what do you do if the losing continues? and these dudes that deserve to be in a better team or that can get you some assets, do you pull those triggers faster, or did you just let them play and continue to just hopefully make the playoffs again? That's where we're kind of at.
But that wasn't the pass or shoot. The pass or shoot was, this is the season lost. Do you let the young guys play or pick things up next season? You're saying if they continue to lose, that's in the future. I'm talking about based on where we are 11 games into the season right now, tanking should not be an option.
Now, the way that you guys are seeing it is if the team is a solidified playoff contending team. It's not like we were in the 6th seed, the 7th seed last season. We barely made the 8th seed, and the East has gotten so much better. So I agree that it is way too early to say, hey, pull the plug and tank right away. And if they did that, this would be a really long-ass season. And you're right. It's not like... Markel, we don't have a starting point guard, and I think that's the part that makes it difficult. Can your team really succeed in the NFL without a quarterback? As much faith as I have in Cole Anthony eventually, I just don't see it right now. Now, in the week ahead, the Magic are playing against, we have Friday, January 15th against Boston, Saturday against Brooklyn. I'm really hoping that we'll get a chance to see kind of Harden in the mix with the Nets there. Monday against the Knicks, and then Wednesday against Minnesota. So a lot of basketball coming our way. Hopefully none of them gets rescheduled. I really want to. I miss watching the Magic basketball play yesterday on Wednesday. So really hope that there are games activated for us. And then let's close this episode out. What are your final thoughts?
Stay healthy. We cannot afford to lose any more players, so stay healthy. Ideally, that's the only thing I want to see. I want to see some Magic basketball, like you said, but I want to see some quality Magic basketball. Like, I think I'm tired of seeing the two-way players being played like they are role players in this team. That's not what they're here for. So I'm hoping we see Fournier back, MCW back at some point, and yeah, man, just give me some quality basketball because we miss it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go opposite. I actually like what I've seen from Jordan Bone. I think that Clifford needs to experiment more with lineups. I think with the amount of injury, having 7 guys injured currently, I think it would behoove Steve Clifford to try different things. You don't know what you got, until you try it. And I think he's comfortable with keeping lineups the way they are. But when you're missing, point producers like Evan Fournier, and Terrence Ross, he came back, but he was also injured. I think that gives you a green light to try different rotations, different lineups, have different guys play with each other, and see what chemistry, kind of happens on the court. I think sometimes you stumble upon things that you don't necessarily expect to happen, and I think Clifford has to embrace kind of not knowing or not being in control as much. I think that would help this team. If we're even mulling over the possibility of tanking, then having different players play out of their traditional minutes and lineup rotations shouldn't be out of the question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this team, obviously minus Markelle Fultz, get healthy again. To be able to see a healthy Mo Bamba, to see a healthy Chuma Okeke, and kind of get a little normality with the players is something that I'm really, really looking forward to, because as much as we may criticize or we have our opinions, at the end of the day, we like the players on our roster. And we will always root for their success, and we want them to play well. I want to be able to turn my TV on and enjoy watching the Magic game. The game against the Bucks, the Magic played really, really well with a limited roster until the fourth quarter. As long as they're going out there and fighting, man, that's all I can ask for. So, cheers to a healthy roster. And that's a wrap for us, man. Thank you so much for listening. That's it for us. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the OZone podcast, the voice of Magic fans.
Be sure to visit our website, theozonepod.com. And remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.